this crazy game between one of Pete's favorite coaches, Campbell, there he is, Dan Campbell, and Detroit. I mean, give us your opinion, Pete, of what he does here. He's going for it with 4th-and-2.
Everything in the world would tell you you never do what he's about to do right now, which is actually snap the ball and go for it under the circumstances. He doesn't care. It's Dan Campbell. He's known to be that guy, John. He's known to be the guy who's going to do things that no other coach in the NFL would even think about doing. And that's what makes him unique. It's why the players love him, to be honest with you. But, it could be a problem. Now, the good news for him is the majority of the time he seems to execute just right. And I think it's because when he does something like this, the defense doesn't see this coming. Matter of fact, Troy Aikman says, this guy's got large onions. We all know what that means. I mean, he's talking about Dan Campbell and the guts that he's got, I'll use that word, to go for it under this situation. He didn't have to. You know what? They still have 3 timeouts, like Troy Aikman was saying. So even if under the right circumstances, they do get a first down, that doesn't mean it's going to burn out the clock. So why did he go for it? Because he's Dan Campbell, and it's a gutsy move, a great move, and I love the move. I got to think John Harbaugh is thinking, what the hell just happened? Because that's in nobody's book, John. No head coach's book say, oh yeah, well you're on your own side of the 50 and you're going to go for it, and you've got a lead. I mean, who does that other than Dan Campbell?
Yeah, you're leading, and you're going to give the other guys good field position if you turn it over, and even if you don't. Turn it over, that is, and you get a first down. Like Pete said, they had all 3 timeouts. Mm-hmm. So they could have, stopped them, forced them to punt, or Dan Campbell goes for it again. In all likelihood, he doesn't make every one of these 4th down conversions, Pete. But that was a gutsy call. Yeah. All right. What do you got as far as college football, Pete?
Well, I say we stick with the NFL for just a second.
Okay, let's do it the NFL first.
And it rolls right into what we were just watching, because the opposing team with Detroit was the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Baltimore Ravens right now are 1-2, John. You and I have probably agreed on the fact that we think they might be the best team in the NFL. Now, here's the one problem that they've got. The Baltimore Ravens, for how many years, going back, with the linebackers and the defensive lines and some of the great safeties and corners and everything, they have always been known as a great defense. Baltimore Ravens have a great defense. Do they always have a great offense? Not really, until, a guy named Lamar showed up, and then suddenly the offense is a pretty damn good offense too. But how about this, John? So far, they've given up 41 points to Buffalo. They gave up 17 points to the Browns and an aging quarterback, and they just gave up 38 points to the Detroit Lions. That defense, by the way, gives up 400 yards a game on average so far these first 3 weeks, 266 yards passing, and 150 yards rushing. So the question I've got is, when does the defense turn into a defense that the Baltimore Ravens and their fans are used to seeing, where they lock it down? They got Ray Lewis back in the day and whomever, but they still have great players, but their defense is not playing the same, John, and that's what I find puzzling. I mean, they're giving up 32 points a game. Do you know where that ranks them? 32nd of 32 teams in the NFL. So the fact that their defense is this bad, by the way, last night they gave up 225 yards rushing. Montgomery had 150 and Gibbs had 67. That is not what Baltimore looks like normally, and it's the start of this year. They haven't been able to stop people, and that's part of the problem. So as good as they are, and I think they're still a really good team, they're going to have to shore up that defense if they want to go anywhere. And you know who they play next week? Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that's a team that wants to start getting that ball into the end zone too, John, because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs haven't exactly started off like a team that's, a Super Bowl team. But I'll tell you what, against that defense, unless some tweaks get done, they're going to be able to move the ball up and down the field.
Well, I'll give the Raven fans some hope here, Pete, because a year ago, in the first 11 weeks of the season, they were giving up almost 286 yards, basically passing. And that will not win you games. Now, over the next several weeks, as they headed to the playoffs, which they did rather well in, but didn't get to the Super Bowl, they knocked that down to 170 yards passing. In other words, their defense tightened up pretty significantly. I don't know what's wrong right now, Pete. I mean, Marlon Humphrey, their corner, is older, maybe, or maybe he's had something, not quite right mentally or physically. I'm not sure. But they were taking advantage of the Ravens and that, Amon Ra, or whatever that kid's name is for. It sounds like an Indiana Jones sequel, Amon Ra. But I think they are not as good a defense as they've been. And last year showed the cracks in it. And apparently they didn't fill enough of those cracks in the offseason. So this could still get worse, I guess, Pete, is what I'd say.
Yeah. And you know what? You do have to have, even in the NFL, you still got to have a defense, or you're not going to, win enough games, because you can only outscore people so much. And it works against you, because if that defense is on the field and they're getting tired because they're out there for a 15-play drive or whatever, eventually that doesn't end well either. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. How about this on the college front? We talked about this a little bit, but how hot is the seats of these guys, John? I'll give you the list of coaches and schools, and you tell me, how about the temperature goes from 0 to 100? All right. So Dabo's at Clemson. I'd say that's starting to get pretty high up there. How about you?
Oh, yeah. And we both love them.
Yep.
And everybody wants to say, well, the new NIL and transfer portal has really impacted him, and he hasn't adjusted to it.
Right.
That's a fair criticism, I guess.
Yeah.
We both thought that perhaps he could still win 10 or 11 games and set himself up for the college football playoffs. Right now, that team does not look like they can do that, Pete.
No.
And I really have no idea why, but it's just not clicking for him right now. So I'd say that's a 95-degree temperature.
Yeah,
right,
I'd say the temp is pretty high. I'm with you. And they got that quarterback at the start of the year that everybody said is a Heisman candidate, including me. And it's just not happening right now for Clemson. So there's a couple of them. How about Gundy's at Oklahoma State? You got Billy Napier from Florida. That record's not looking too good right now, John. It's pretty awful. How about Luke Fickell from Wisconsin? Of that group of four, who's the hottest? Is it Wisconsin, Florida, or Oklahoma State right now?
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, Pete, even though Gundy's had some decent years there and he's developed a lot of great players, these days it isn't about developing the great players. It's about getting them to, sign letters of intent and then, come. So you lose 69-3 to Oregon. Your alumni are just pissed.
Yeah.
And then you are a double-digit favorite against Tulsa. Now, I've actually seen Tulsa play a fair amount, Pete, because back in the day I used to root for Tulane a lot when my daughter went there. And Tulsa's had some teams from time to time. But if you're a double-digit favorite against Tulsa and you lose, as they did, I think he's right up there at the 95-degree temperature reading for the hot seat as well.
I totally agree with you. And I don't think they're going to go this early on Fickell. I'll give you a couple of other ones where they're a little bit more of a stretch, but you know what? Their names keep coming up by people because their alumni are not very happy. So you've got Hugh Freeze at Auburn, Lincoln Riley at USC. Now, USC's done fine so far to the start of the year, but as we get deeper, it'll be interesting because so far he has not done what the fans had wanted him to do either. And then you got Bill Belichick at North Carolina. He's fine. It's not that hot. Well, it's probably hot for anybody else, but it's Bill Belichick, so they probably give him a little time. And then the Arkansas coach, John, his name is Sam Pittman. These are just all schools where they're it's warming up for sure. I don't know how hot it is, but it's definitely warming up. Is there anybody who stands out in that group for you?
Well, yeah. In that group, I'd say Arkansas, Pete.
Yeah.
That coach, he's definitely on the hot seat. And one guy that's probably not in the 90-degree heat yet, but UAB, Trent Dilfer.
Yes.
Because
Good
a
call.
lot of people really liked this guy coming in there for what he could do, they thought, Pete. But, he's been in his several years there, he's 9-18. Now, that'll get the alumni kind of riled up. And then you lose 56-24 to Tennessee. That'll keep them riled up.
Oh, yeah.
So UAB head coach Trent Dilfer, I'd say, is at least 80 degrees, Pete. And
Yep.
maybe the dean or the president of the university or the GM or the AD, maybe they really like him, but that's that might be his only hope of staying there, is if they like him.
Well, I got two that are already 100% and gone. You got UCLA with Deshaun Foster, and you've got Virginia Tech with Brent Pry. I'll tell you what, John, it's going to start getting a lot thicker, I think, because you mentioned somebody that I didn't even have it on the list. And I'll tell you what, if you look around the country, there's probably a good 8 or 10 other schools where the disappointment's starting to get there, and it's starting to warm up. And it's not that high yet, but it'll get higher as the season goes on. And, it is what it is. It is a big money sport, college football, and you got to win. So I think that there's a lot of seats out there that are going to be changing as we get deeper into this year, and maybe even some more firings in the year, and let the coordinators take over and all the rest of that. So kind of what UCLA and Virginia Tech have done, right? I mean, they fired these guys a couple weeks into the season, and they're already gone. So that heat is hot and gone, and they're going to have to replace them. And by the way, they don't even have a general manager at UCLA, John, which is kind of a unique thing, because why not? You're UCLA, for crying out loud. All USC's got one, Cal's got one, Stanford's got one. I know they're not all in the Pac-12 anymore, but you know what? My point is, most of these schools have a general manager now, and that's the guy who's kind of that go-between between athletic director, chancellor, and the head coach, right? And that's sort of the job. But I'll tell you what, the fact that they don't even have somebody there, why? I mean, you're UCLA. What the hell?